today. We begin part 3, entering into Gemini as we approach the Gemini full moon, the festival of humanity, the festival of the Christ, and World Invocation Day.
We continue our approach to the festival of humanity, the festival of the Christ, the festival of goodwill. This part 3, solemnity as a way of being. The Gemini full moon preparation, the days of resurrection, of love, of contact, consciousness on the higher mental plane, aligning with the hierarchy.
True solemnity is built upon the highest degree of tension. Solemnity is not rest, not satisfaction, not the end. It is precisely a beginning, that is, resoluteness and a march forward on the path of light. Hardships are inevitable, for they are the wheels of striving. Terrible pressures are inevitable, for without them the explosion lacks power. Joy abides in the solemn victory of the Spirit. And the victory of the Spirit lies in affirmation of the unshakable principles from which everything begins.
Pause and consider our progression from the latent consciousness of Aries through the illuminating light of Taurus to the consciousness of duality in Gemini. As we study, meditate, and contemplate, growing, in group formation entering more fully into the energies of Gemini during this cycle of esoteric study and meditation, grounded in the potent energies of the full moon, the festival of humanity, and the great invocation. Heart Sloka 127. Every thought generates action. The most significant thought creates a tiny action. Therefore, think broadly, so that even if you meet with failure, there remains a potential large enough to generate substantial results. Manas, the light of Lord Buddha. Buddhi. Love is the purified heart, pure reason. It is difficult for someone to start thinking about beneficial construction when a mist of blood is fogging up his consciousness. But sooner or later, he will have to turn to the power of purified thought. Therefore, it is better to begin sooner.
You who dwell in the shelter of the Lord, who abide in his shadow for life, say to the Lord, my refuge, my rock in whom I trust, and he will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand.
We move forward, recognizing that the evolutionary process has advanced a few beyond the point of emotional idealism. And yet, as we turn towards this festival of humanity, we embrace all of those who are at that point where they are ready to begin to embrace the power of purified thought.
How do we deepen our appreciation of the higher correspondence and the lower correspondence? Aries, the will to be, corresponding to the logoic plane and then the mental plane. Taurus, the desire to know, corresponding to the monadic plane and then to the astral plane. Gemini, the establishment of relationship, corresponding to the spiritual plane and then to the etheric plane.
We begin, I serve myself, mutation of relation, and then sum of humanity, orient to, I serve my brother, orientation of relation. And then there are those in humanity who have moved to the point of, I serve the one, right relation.
I pray you'll be eyes and watch us where we go, and help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Nella mia preghiera, let this be our prayer. Quanta fede c'è when shadows fill the day. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be safe. Sogniamo un mondo senza più violenza, un mondo di giustizia e di speranza. Ognuno viola, Manuel suo vicino, simbolo di pace, di fraternità. La forza che ci dà. We just let life be kind. Il desiderio che and watches from above. Ognuno troviamo. We hope we so will find. Dentro sé. Another soul to love. Let this be our prayer. Let this be our prayer. Just like every child. Just like every child. Need to find a place. Guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be safe. E la fede che hai acceso in noi. Sento che ci sale.
Founding is the greater group that has formed and is forming, becoming the channel for the dissipation of world glamour and dispelling of illusion. We sound the protective formula as one with the greater group. As the soul, we work in light, and darkness cannot touch us. We take our stand within the light. We work, and from that point, we never move.
We reach out in an effort to bring humanity with us under the protection of the light and blend mystical and occult teachings to bring us to a point where we can truly embrace the coming age.
Learn first of all to control reactions to the planets as they rule and direct the personality affairs from their different stations in the 12 houses of the horoscope. A way in which this is done by consciously assuming the position of the spiritual observer and by cultivating the power to respond to the soul. Then, from the angle of that soul, the man must learn to control circumstance and the attendant reactions of the personality.
We draw together as a group and lift to the level of soul consciousness.
The souls of all are one, and we are one with them. We seek to love, not hate. We seek to serve, and not exact due service. We seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate, and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love.
We stand together with all of humanity, those who are beginning to step onto the path with the energy of mutability through Gemini. And through that mutation process, begin to rise into the level of the beginning of soul consciousness and practice transmutation. We embrace all on the mutable cross.
The sign as it relates to the mutable cross. This mutable cross is sometimes called the cross of rebirth, emphasizing the constant mutation of which it is the symbol, and also the cross of changing lives. It pictorially represents the four critical points or movements in the span of existence of the soul in manifestation. Gemini. 1. Essential, unrelated duality, the twins. 2. Sensed and recognized duality through A. Mass fusion in Cancer, B. Individual consciousness in Leo, the stage of humanity.
We endeavor to serve the one and all of humanity entering onto now the initiation of the birth of the Christ consciousness.
For the individual disciple, the significance of the law of magnetic impulse and the corresponding relationships in one's own life may also be shown in this way. The world of souls on the higher mental levels, impressing the master of his group, directing the solar angel, guiding the aspiring disciple on the lower mental levels, striving the personality integrated and often troublesome, including the aspirants environing associates.
Consider your own place along the path and extend out to embrace all of those who are struggling to bring into the personality aspects of the higher and eradicate the aspects that are troublesome. Lead us, O Lord. Lead us, O Lord. From darkness to light, from the unreal to the real, from chaos to beauty, from death to immortality, from the individual to the universal. Ponder as we listen to the Tibetan monks chanting the Om on our embracing all of those in humanity, wherever they are, along this trajectory.
From the last sermon of the Buddha, which the Lord Maitreya, the Christ, sounds at the festival of humanity. When the self and the external world become one, eternal serenity is enjoyed. Forget the self, forget others, become one with no barrier between the self and the outside world. Without any interruption, practice meditation. Meditation includes not only sitting. Every moment of one's life is meditation. This means to experience the oneness of yourself, time, and place.
Do not forget what the Buddha thought. As Buddha was dying, he told his disciples to forget about him and his belongings. The important thing was to remember his teachings. When we enter samadhi and understand impermanence, we are unshaken. Everything is constantly changing, including ourselves.
Let's read these teachings that accompany this important tabulation that is given to us by the Tibetan master.
In the fourth kingdom, the human, it is the energy of the fourth ray, which, cooperating with the first ray, eventually brings synthesis. There is a close relation between the highest center, the head center, and that at the base of the spine. This fourth type of energy thus expresses itself in cooperation with the first type, because we are all still Atlantean in our polarization. And that civilization was the fourth in order. It is very largely the work done in our fifth civilization, our present Aryan race, which will, in cooperation with the fifth principle of the mind, bring a shift into a higher level of consciousness. This will produce a harmonizing of all the centers through an act of the will, intellectually and intelligently applied, with the objective of producing harmony. This point warrants thought.
In the center of the will of God we stand. Naught shall deflect our will from God's will. We implement that will by love. We turn towards the field of service. As the triangle divine, we work out that will within the square and serve humanity. Thus we have the transmitters of the life impulses from the heart of the central spiritual sun, so that we have a direct, graded chain of transmitting energies from the heart of the central spiritual sun, the sevenfold heart of the physical sun, the Buddhic devas, the central circle of petals, the astral permanent atom, the head center within the head, and the heart center.
We align with the heart of humanity. The line of relationship then extends from these onward and outward and upward spherically considered to the life at the very center of our Earth's alter ego, the planet Venus, to Jupiter, and thence to the solar Lord himself, and on to a point in the sun, Sirius. You can see, therefore, how different this stage is to what might be imagined. It is one which marks a new departure or beginning and a great transition. It is a stage which one enters through the open door of nirvana, the beginning of the path of the higher evolution. It is a stage which marks a specific location, if such an inappropriate word can be used, of the disciple upon that upward way which is revealed by the lighted way. It is the attainment of the innermost point of realization, called esoterically within the heart. It is this much higher advanced process which we can only begin to imagine that the masters are bringing into their consciousness, and thus will lift and aid through us to bring all disciples and aspirants along the path.
The significance of the word heart is the significance of life itself, as it beats eternally at the very heart of the universe. Within that life, the initiate now consciously stands, realizing himself not so much as being a recipient of life, but as a distributor of life. This is a very different thing and holds the key to this stage of discipleship. The master's heart is a technical term, indicating the sources of life and many analogous interpretations. There is at this stage and after a certain major initiation a direct line of energy and of life, sensed, recognized, active, and utilized between the conscious disciple and 1. The disciple's heart center. 2. The heart center in the head. 3. The egoic lotus, which, until the fourth initiation, is the heart center of the monadic life. 4. The master at the center of his group. 5. The Christ, the heart center of the hierarchy, the center of receptivity for the Syrian energy. 6. The life of the monad, which begins to make itself felt at the third initiation. And 7. The Lord of Life himself, the heart center of Shambhala.
Related to the energy quality of love, wisdom. The law of polar union facilitates group self-relations and fusion. Building energy works with self through groups, raising group consciousness, and fusing group diversity in meditation and service.
So having explored from the texts and the teachings of Master Dwell Kul this very advanced stage that evolves in the disciple moving through the process of initiation onto the higher paths, we engage under the Master's direction using the law of polar union. When we activate love wisdom, and this brings us together in group formation and facilitates these higher relations, and fusion building energy works with the soul through the groups. This raises our group consciousness and fuses the group diversity in meditation and service that is emanating through all the groups through the 7 soul groups on the higher mental plane.
The law that guides the process of relationship. This law of magnetic impulse governs the relation, the interplay, the intercourse, and the interpenetration between the 7 groups of souls on the higher levels of the mental plane, which constitute the first of the major form differentiations. These we can only study intelligently from the angle of the 7 ray groups, as they compose the spiritual aspect of the human family. This law governs also the relationship between souls, who, whilst in manifestation through form, are en rapport with each other. It is a law, therefore, which concerns the interrelation of all souls. There are therefore to be found in this great task the following relations and groupings. These must be considered and are as follows: the force of light and the spirit of peace, embodied lives of tremendous groups potency, the planetary hierarchy, the Buddha, the Christ, the new group of world servers, humanity.
So as we work in our individual or small group efforts, we are continuously reminded by Master Dwal Kul to acknowledge our ascent through spiritual discernment to that point of response to group vibration, the 7 groups of souls on the higher levels of the mental plane, and become en rapport with this much higher level of discernment. At the time of the festival of the Christ of humanity, we all come together. So let us embrace our place. And sound the first giving of the great invocation, which was given for humanity at the time of great need.
Let the forces of light bring illumination to humanity. Let the spirit of peace be spread abroad. May people of goodwill everywhere meet in a spirit of cooperation. May forgiveness on the part of all be the keynote at this time. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. So let it be, and help us to do our part.
We embrace with our friends and colleagues as demonstrations of our souls en rapport with these higher energies, and we align through the law of polar union, linking the higher and the lower, to the triangles of the saving force and the will, dynamic will, the will of God, radiatory will, the love of God, and magnetic will, the intelligence of God, united in the Christic principle as the centralizing force within all the triangles in the ashram of synthesis, where the Christ, called the Krishna, the Bodhisattva, the Lord Maitreya, becomes the Christ consciousness. And we sound the second giving of the great invocation that was given to disciples and initiates to guide through very difficult times.
Let the Lords of Liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to all humanity. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming save. Come forth, O Mighty One. Let the souls of all awaken to the light, and may we stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth, the end of woe has come. Come forth, O Mighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O Mighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end.
We unite our energies with all serving groups and embrace the downpouring from the saving force.
The ancient books of the East point out, in considering this subject, that the 7 stars of the Great Bear, the 7 stars of the Pleiades, and the sun, Sirius, have a very close connection with our solar system, and that they hold an intimate, psychic, magnetic relation to our solar logos. In the Eastern books, they say that in the sun, Sirius, lies the source of wisdom, and that the influence or the energy of love emanates from there. Then they say that there is a constellation that is even more closely connected with our solar logos. The reason being is that he is not as yet sufficiently evolved so that he can respond completely to Sirius, but he can respond to the influence of the 7 sisters of the Pleiades.
We maintain our alignment with the higher centers, for these centers receive the force in a threefold manner. Force from the heavenly man, and therefore from the 7 rishis of the Great Bear, via the monad. Forces from the Pleiades, via the solar angel, or ego. Force from the planes, from the Raja Devas of a plane, or Phohatic energy, via the spirili of a permanent atom. Master Moya, through the words of Agni Yoga, tells us, you know how greatly we, the masters, oppose any conventional habits. Yet one must discriminate between habit and immersion in saving grace. As an example, solemnity combines in itself ecstasy and assent and a defense against evil and the turning toward hierarchy. Thus, solemnity is a salvation, but it must be absorbed and maintained. In the midst of disintegration and destruction, can there be solemnity? But for a solemn consciousness, destruction does not exist. It is immediately canopied by a cupola of recreation in all its beauty subtly. Thus, the reflection of solemnity is justly considered luminous.
So we continue to strive towards solemnity, for it is in truth, with attainment, the blending and merging of the mystic and the occult. Linking heart, throat center, and the 7 merging head centers, the egoic lotus, which until the 4th initiation is the heart center of the monadic life. Find the spark of monadic life hidden within the center of your being. Allow this point, that which you perceive as the presence, to permeate your entire being. Aligned with the soul of all, draw down soul radiance into the egoic lotus, the soul vehicle, the vessel of the soul in incarnation. In silence, receive from the ashram. Maintaining that high alignment, enter into the inflow of ideas that come to us from the hierarchy. And allow us to expand our experience of the presence. Then, standing in the field of our awareness, we await a hint of a truth that will bring relief to humanity. Coming through the angel of the presence and the spiritual triad. We hold this receptivity, this alignment in all circumstances, and remember the teachings of the Buddha. We meditate in each moment and bring these energies into our being, aligned with our groups and with the higher, that we may shine forth as stars and become a new planetary constellation of light workers, forming united as one within the new group of world servers, becoming the one world serving group. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech, each moment recognizing as a moment of meditating the higher teachings into and through each experience. Sensing the presence as a vibratory experience, ascertaining the purpose, that which is seeking to embody form now, carrying a world issue or service desire into the triple light of the intuition. We are thus becoming duly recognized as trustworthy agents of light. Self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech are all that emanate through our beings. We achieve a definite and sustained effort to sense the presence in all forms and in all presentations of truth, primarily to see in the light which the angel radiates, the point of light behind all phenomenal appearances. We attempt to isolate the germ or seed of divinity which has brought all forms into being. We are preparing for revelation.
Points of revelation. This almost brings us automatically to the third aspect of preparation for initiation, which Master DK called in an earlier instruction the presentation of points of revelation. These formulas, when rightly studied and eventually somewhat apprehended, at least intellectually, carry the disciple to the point where that which is new, hitherto unrealized, and for which no word exists, is suddenly contacted. St. Paul had reached such a point when he referred to the third heaven as it veiled the seventh, which was the original wording, deleted by the recipients of his message at that time as utterly meaningless. Eye has not seen, nor has ear heard, the inexpressible revelation which comes to the initiate, who can penetrate into certain high places where the nature of the divine will suddenly assumes a different and amazing significance, where the purposes being worked out in the council chamber of Shambhala are vision, not in detail, but as a suddenly contacted inspiration. Then for the first time, the initiate becomes consciously receptive to the energy pouring into the hierarchy from the great white lodge on Sirius. the Syrian law of freedom. It is at this point of revelation and in relation to this symbol that the initiate eventually stands. Then the many lines of force within the square become the 7 paths of light which claim his choice, leading him on to the 7-fold path of initiate evolution. This is the way of the higher evolution of which man knows nothing. The words refer to the 7 paths which the master has to consider and from which he has to choose his future way.
We have here the symbol of the cosmic paths and the receptivity to Syrian energy. It relates to Meditation 7 that is given with the 2 crosses and the Antakarana, and is the reason that we work to create the Antakarana in our own system and also a group Antakarana. This beautiful evocative image from Dwayne Carpenter illustrates this path to Sirius that these advanced initiates at the 5th, 6th initiation consider.
All paths meet at the center. The many become the 7 and the 8. From point to point, the lines converge. They stretch from point to point. The outer square, the circle of the 1, and the point of unity are seen as one, and the master passes on his way. He has penetrated to the center by passing along the Antakarana, which he has himself constructed. There he polarizes himself and takes his stand, and from thence, at the center of the circle and within the square of service, he precipitates the energies and forces which that service demands. From these few hints, you can grasp the nature of the symbol and the quality of its meaning, plus the potency of the force which, through its correct apprehension, can carry the initiate disciple from the unreal to the real.
And this is the point that the Tibetan describes often in relation to this 6th initiation, which the Christ has begun and will complete at the 7th initiation. And so the festival of the Christ has tremendous meaning for us as the Christ utters the great invocation on behalf of humanity.
The law of freedom that streams from Sirius enters the hierarchy as freedom of choice. Group initiation is only used by the members of the hierarchy in reference to the first 2 initiations, initiations of the threshold from the angle of the lodge on Sirius. After these 2 preparatory events, the initiate, at and after the 3rd initiation, reaches the point wherein he undergoes initiation in his own right, as the phrase runs, for he can now be trusted to ask nothing for the separated self. His personality is tempered and adjusted to group conditions. Increasingly, he is manifesting as a soul-infused personality, and the Antakarana is being rapidly created and effectively used. To phrase it otherwise, As the number and expressions of soul-infused personalities grow and initiates of the third degree increase numerically on Earth, what will be the result? 3 great happenings will take place with spiritual and focused intention. They are today taking place. It is this conscious initiation in intention which confers potency in the life of each disciple and initiate. Sensing the presence throughout the universe, we achieve a definite and sustained effort to sense the presence in all forms and in all presentations of truth. Primarily to see in the light which the angel radiates, the point of light behind all phenomenal appearances. We attempt to isolate the germ or seed of divinity which has brought all forms into being. The 5th planetary initiation corresponds to entered apprentice in Masonry. The 6th planetary initiation corresponds to the 2nd degree in Masonry. The 7th planetary initiation is the first Syrian initiation or Master Mason. Those who pass away from the earth after the 5th initiation, or those who do not become masters in physical incarnation, take their subsequent initiations elsewhere in the system. All are in the logoic consciousness. One great fact to be borne in mind is that the initiations of the planet, the 5th compulsory initiations, or of the solar system, are but the preparatory initiations of admission into the Greater Lodge on Sirius.
So our work together and work with our groups is to take us to the point where we can become the spiritual man at the 3rd initiation. And in that effort, we open the heart, the throat, and the 7 head centers, so that there are 9 centers above the diaphragm that are open, flooding with light, and increasingly receptive to hierarchical impression. Solemnity should be strengthened by the concept of brotherhood. It ought not to remain an empty sound. To affirm solemnity means to sing hymns to the rising sun. It must be realized that purification is vouchsafed at being filled with health-giving solemnity. Our task, then, the 1st and 2nd initiations, the processes of transmutation. We follow the downflow of the revelation, the highest ideal sensed as flowing from the presence through the angel of the presence into the soul vehicle, the egoic lotus as pure, selfless intention, into brain recognition with utter harmlessness. The channel of approach or of downflow is from the will aspect of the monadic life to that level of consciousness and of energy which we call that of the higher mind. From the higher mind to the 5 knowledge petals of the egoic lotus. From these vortices of force to the lower concrete mind, that in which we knowingly work in our daily lives, aligned with soul consciousness, meditation moment to moment. From the downflow of ideas from the angel of the presence, now into and through the centers as right speech, to the throat center, and from thence immediately to the sacral center, raising it up. From there again to the throat center, where the creative physical urge is transmuted, transmutation into artistic, literary, or some other form of creation, expression selflessly constructed to serve humanity. And later still, we endeavor then to raise again into the power to create groups and organizations which will express some idea or some thought which emanates from the mind of God and demanding immediate precipitation upon earth. Gemini is the most important aspect of the mutable cross. The mutable cross producing that constant flux and periodic change in time and space, which will provide a field of adequate experience for the unfoldment of the Christ life and consciousness. Each moment is a new opportunity to be the soul and personality merged and blended. The moon is far from home, yet it lights the traveler's path. And those on the mutable cross look to the moon and the light that is reflected. And therefore we, in our groups, reflect the light of the sun.
Tatsavitu Pareniyam Pargo Devasya Dhimai Yo Yona Prachodayat Om.
This is the end, the close of part 3, as we are moving toward the full moon in Gemini, the festival of humanity. For further study and deeper understanding, we have many resources. So let us prepare for World Invocation Day. This is the end of this recording, and we will record the teachings of the Tibetan Master for a separate posting on YouTube of the teachings that can guide us to a very deep understanding of each stanza of the final iteration of the great invocation that was given to humanity. Blessings, and thank you so much for all of your contributions to this ongoing work.